快离开！ What's good, everybody? We got an absolute banger for you today. And remember, these videos are strictly for entertainment purposes only. Don't believe everything you hear or see. These are just theories, not facts, for context. With that being said, slap that like and subscribe button and let's dive in.
The first solar eclipse of 2026 will happen at the bottom of the world. On February 17th, the sun will transform into a glowing ring of fire over Antarctica. This rare event is called an annular solar eclipse, and the moon will be a bit farther from Earth, so instead of completely covering the sun, it'll block the center, leaving a fiery halo of sunlight glowing around the edges. The moment of maximum eclipse begins at 7:12 a.m. Eastern and lasts just 1 minute and 52 seconds, so basically blink and you'll miss it. While the path is confined to the icy expanse of Antarctica, partial views will be visible from South America, Southeastern Africa, and across parts of the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. So if you miss this eclipse, don't worry. Skywatchers will get a better chance to catch this phenomenon next month in the US. The only total lunar eclipse of the year will turn the moon blood red on March 2nd and 3rd, with totality visible on the West Coast.
Man, I would love to see that. Over Antarctica, I feel like something's going to be aligned during that time, like the summer's gate to the outer lands is going to be open or something, you know? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen during those 2 minutes?
In just 3 days, something incredible happens that most humans will never see. February 17th, 2026, Antarctica. The moon slides perfectly in front of the sun, but here's the twist. It's too far away to cover it completely. The result? A blazing ring of fire burning in the Antarctic sky. Picture this, millions of confused penguins staring up at the sky, wondering why the sun suddenly turned into a glowing donut. No joke, more penguins will see this eclipse than people. The ring of fire path cuts 2,661 miles across western Antarctica and the Southern Ocean. Only the bravest eclipse chasers will witness it firsthand. But here's what makes this insane. During annularity, you'll see the moon's dark silhouette surrounded by a perfect golden ring, nature's most dramatic light show. And it gets better. This kicks off an eclipse season. 2 weeks later, a lunar eclipse follows. The universe is putting on a show and Antarctica gets front row seats. In just 3 days, something incredible.
Man, I wish I could see that. Only the bravest eclipse tracers. Yeah, it's going to be in Antarctic, and they said in the West Coast you'll be able to see the blue moon in March. Man.
If your fish sound like this, you're probably in the coldest city on Earth. Negative 50 degrees Celsius, a cold that freezes skin in seconds, is just another Tuesday here where literally breathing the air burns your lungs. You can't even use your phone outside for more than 3 minutes without your battery dying, so you have to carry them in these. Boiling water freezes instantly, as well as your ramen noodles. Bananas get so hard they can be used as hammers. And meat sticks instantly to metal, which means so would your skin. Freshly washed clothes turn into steel plates within minutes. And frozen foods are commonly found dangling outside of windows instead of in freezers. If you turn off your car, the engine oil can freeze solid within 20 minutes. And you would have to wait till April to start it again, so people tend to leave them running whenever they go out. When parked, they need to be covered with special thermal blankets called Natasha, or otherwise they'll end up unusable. And people actually live here, like a lot, with a population of over 300,000 who have adapted to the most insane living conditions anywhere in the world, with the coldest recorded temperature at negative 64 degrees Celsius and very commonly falling to negative 50 during the winter. Residents regularly wear up to 20 pounds of clothing to stay warm and have a 15-minute rule for the amount of time it should take to get dressed before going out. In surrounding areas without centralized plumbing, residents harvest blocks of ice from lakes outside their homes and bring them in as needed to melt as their daily drinking water. People here are just built different. The only path connecting this village to the rest of civilization is the treacherous Road of Bones, and there's a reason they call it that. Stretching over 2,000 kilometers, it was built in the 30s and 40s under Stalin's regime, where hundreds of thousands of forced laborers passed away from the extreme conditions. And because the ground under their feet was rock-solid permafrost, they couldn't even bury the bodies. Instead, they just laid them directly on the roadbed they were building and covered them in dirt and gravel to make the road of bones we have today. Despite this morbid past and perilous living conditions, their economy is actually shockingly booming, being the closest major settlement to the biggest diamond mine in the world at Icall Mine, and other smaller ones in the region. And surprisingly even have a pretty bustling tech and startup industry at its city center. Who would have thought? Their extreme winters only last about 3 to 4 months out of the year, and their summers are actually very hot, reaching well above 30 degrees Celsius, also making it the biggest temperature variance anywhere on Earth, with a staggering range of about 100 degrees. This is the Yakutsk village in the Siberian tundra of Russia, and there's no other place quite like it.
There's actually something going on that's pretty crazy in America. Like, the snow is melting, right? And the snow is melting, and they're saying that chemicals are being released, causing the air not to be the best to breathe in. Like, I'm not sure where everyone's at, but if you have snow and it's melting, let me know how your air quality is. But they're saying that it causes a release in contaminants. Snow acts as a sink for air pollution. As it melts, it releases accumulated volatile organic compounds called VOCs, nitric oxides, and other pollutions in the air. Trapped particles. When the snow melts, it freezes dust, sand, road salt. You know, so it's just like, me, I experienced it a little bit tough to breathe, to be honest with you. You know, so I'm just saying, you know, I'm honestly looking at microscopes, and be on the lookout for real soon. Honestly, I'm gonna place my order today. I'm gonna get a microscope, and we're gonna put this snow under the microscope, and we got to see what's going on. We got to start having some data and documenting this stuff, because I don't ever remember it being like this when the snow melts, you know, making the air quality go up. I mean, down. It's technically up because the higher the particles, like I believe today it was like 154, and like the good range is in between, like I think like 5 and 30, you know. So for it to be 154, that is terrible. But yeah, I'm getting a microscope, and we're going to dive into this air quality. I want you guys to check this video out and tell me what you think is in the snow.
Bit of this snow here. What's up, so, all right, guys, we're getting set up to check our snow. So nobody says I'm doing anything weird. We have our clean microscope slide. We have our fresh snow from outside. And we are just gonna put tiny bit on there. Some little rocks. All right, I need a top cover slide. Here's your relax, buddy. There ain't nothing out there. Okay. Let's see. Turn you guys over here so you can hopefully see what I'm seeing. All right, let's start. Ooh, what the fuck is that? Weird. Wow. Let me show you guys this.
What is that?
I'm gonna flip this camera around. All right, guys. This is really weird.
Is that nanotech?
Because these are not ice crystals. You can clearly see that that is water on my slide. Okay. These look like effing parasites or some type of plastic. And we are seeing these strange X shapes, okay, which look
Graphene
very
oxide?
similar to me, like a chromosome marker. See how shiny blue these are? This is how heavy metals show up in the blood.
That is
Now,
what
just to be clear, everyone,
snow
this is
normally
what
looks like.
snow and water are supposed to look like under a microscope. Not
Like I said, I literally was having breathing troubles, you know, for the first time in a while. And I'm thinking, like, what's going on? The sun's out, snow's melting. It looks like a nice day, but no, the snow is melting, releasing something.
You find it in the Vatican, you find it in ancient Egypt, you find it here in the States, you find it all over cemeteries, you find it all over the Masonic lodges, and they believe by setting up this ritual. Now, it's all a recreation of the original ritual that took place between Isis and the 13 pieces of Osiris. The Washington Monument and the Dome of Isis, which is the Capitol building. Now, this is fascinating because the original ritual had to take place between what we would, in a courtyard, between a dome and an obelisk. Putting those two together like that creates a power generator, literally a generator for this ritual. But think about this. In ancient Egypt, what had happened was the Pharaoh would go through this ritual, he would enter in a man, and he would exit the ritual a god. That was their belief. And they believed that their Pharaoh was literally the embodiment of Osiris because of that ritual. They were calling him up out of the underworld. Same ritual, basically, that the Freemasons believe that they have maintained the proper language and the ritual to a T from the ancient world. They claim to have this still today. They're right there between the dome and the obelisk, right there in that power generator, and right around the corner at the Herodome, which is what they call the Masonic Mecca of the world, literally. The Herodome is this temple, this massive, crazy temple in DC. They are literally calling on the spirit of Osiris to raise up, or Apollo, however you want to slice it, but they're not all conscious of the ritual. They believed in the foundation of this nation that Washington was a type. He was the first Osiris. Technically, every president in their eyes is an Osiris, but the crazy thing is that not every time the ritual is going to stick. They have to keep doing it until it actually sticks, and they get that one that they've been waiting for. You know, how many years, was Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard working in the desert trying to get this ritual to stick? They do this at the inauguration of every U.S. president because they believe there is going to come a time in a president that will be the one in the Capitol building beneath the 72 pentagrams and the apotheosis of George Washington. And that's not it. There's so much more numerology about the Capitol building and the 13 statues and the statutory hall. But I believe that's the real ritual. That's the one where he's going to raise, where the spirit of Osiris, which the Bible talks about, this Apollyon coming up from the bottomless pit. Now his body's cut up into 14 pieces. It gets thrown into the Nile River. And Isis, of course, isn't happy about this. Isis tries to collect all the pieces up, and she's only able to find 13 pieces. So she fashions together those 13 pieces to form a more perfect union, which is the framework of our 13 colonies, a more perfect union, based off of the myth of Osiris. Now that's showing Egyptian magic even in the framework and the fabric of our foundation, right? It's not an accident that they brought together 13 colonies to form a more perfect union. That was all by design. It was all manufactured. Find it in the Vatican.
That explains why we have the Egyptian pyramid on back of the dollar, huh? And I mean, look at this building right here. This is just screaming. You got the checkered floorboards. This is just screaming ritual. He saw this in his window, y'all. I always feel like somebody's watching me.
The entities are usually said to be dressed in close-fitting, one-piece jumpsuits. Very often, the witnesses notice a winged serpent shoulder patch on the euphonauts' uniforms, or observe such an object in a medallion or other insignia. I saw an entity such as this when I was 5 years old. It occurred in our Iowa farm. I was seated on the edge of the bed one October evening, and I heard the sound of someone dragging a wash tub over under the kitchen window. As I looked in that direction, I saw a smallish entity standing up on his tiptoes, peering in at my parents who were in the kitchen. I watched the...
He didn't switch camera angles on us, did he? He just did not switch camera angles on this alien story.
being for quite some time, feeling a kind of anticipation and awe. And then the watcher must have felt as though he was being watched. And then he turned to look at me, and we made eye-to-eye contact. I have never forgotten the moment when we looked at one another eye to eye at a distance of probably 7 to 8 feet. It seemed as though the entity's eyes began to get larger and larger and larger. And I became very tranquil, very much at peace. And then I knew nothing else until I awakened the next morning. The entities are usually...
I'm still mad he switched camera angles talking about this alien that's watching him through this window 7 feet away. I'm mad about the camera angle switch.
It's a true story, and I don't really know how to tell it, but I'm just going to tell the parts that I know how to explain. Back in the early 2000s, I got acquainted with some people over in Virginia. Their last name was Rowlett, or Roulette. They said Rowlett, so that's what I call her. And she was probably one of the most pleasant people. She was quiet and just soft-spoken and just a good-hearted person. He, on the other hand, was hell on wheels. He cussed, he ranted, he raved, he had nothing nice to say to her or anybody else. He was a mean, mean man. Just mean. And she said that he'd been that way all of his life, and they were up in their mid to later 70s. It made me wonder why she would ever marry him, but she did. And I tried to talk to him on different occasions about coming to church. He'd cuss me and tell me he didn't want no part of it. But we got to be friends over the years, and he was a hard pill to swallow, but I guess I was tolerant. I don't know if it's where I was in the military for so long, it just didn't bother me or what. But he kind of warmed up to me. He didn't want my religion. He didn't want to hear nothing about the Lord. But he considered me his friend. And if he needed something, he would call me. If he was picking beans in the garden, he'd call me and ask me if I needed beans or whatever it was, corn, if he was picking corn, tomatoes, just whatever it was. He was my friend. And I guess I was his friend. But anyway, around 2013, 2014, something like that, he took sick. And I think he was 82 when he passed away. And I would go down, they put him in a nursing home for a while because he had a stroke. And they give him physical therapy and stuff, and they sent him home. And she put a hospital bed in the living room. And there was a big plate glass window there. It was about 5 feet by 6 or 7 feet, and he would lay in that hospital bed because he couldn't get around good, and he'd look out the window. And a lot of times I'd go by and he'd see my truck and he'd throw his hand up, and I thought he was doing better. Well, he called me one night and she said, "Dave, you need to come down here now." Well, I just got up, put my breeches on, my shirt, told my wife, I said, I'm going to go down. Miss Rowlett said, I need to come down now. She said, okay, do you want me to go with you? And I said, no, I don't think that's okay. You've got to work tomorrow. Just you go on to sleep and I'll be home when I get back. And she was acquainted with him, so she knew where I was going. And When I got there, he had already passed. Took him about an hour to pass away. She thought he had more time. And I walked in and the ambulance service hadn't even got there yet to take him to not the ambulance service, the hearse. The funeral home hadn't got there to get him yet. The sheriff had been there and the coroner and pronounced him. And they had just left, but the hearse hadn't got there yet. And they had a big rock fireplace in their living room. And it worked. I mean, it was beautiful masonry work. And she said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "I don't know." She said, "Do you know how to lay rock?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I want my fireplace rocked up. I want it closed up." And I said, "Well, Miss Rowlett," I said, "what if you need it, honey?" And she said, "I'll never use it again." And she said, "I want it rocked up as soon as I can get done." And it made me curious because I didn't understand why she would want to do that. Oh, I asked, I said, "Why in the world would you want to do that?" I said, "That thing's beautiful. You may need that." "Nope, I'm going to rock it up." And I said, "Well, why?" And she said, "Have you ever seen a reprobate die?" And I said, "No, not that I know of. Not if I've seen people get killed that were pretty bad." I said, "But it was almost instantaneous." And I said, "So, no, I don't guess I really have." And she said, "You never want to see it." She said, "He started feeling bad and told me," she said, "I was sitting on the couch watching television with him. And he told me to get those people out of there, that he didn't like them." And she said, "At first I thought he was hallucinating or something, watching them people on TV." And she said, "I told him, there ain't nobody in here. That's TV." And he said, "No, it's not." He said, "I see them. They're people," and said they're dark. He had a name for them. They're dark people, and said they keep going in the kitchen. And he said they come around the bed, and he said they come over here and look at me, and then they're leaving. And he said, "Get them out of here." And she said, after a minute, she figured out what was going on because he started having trouble breathing. And she said, "I just got down beside his bed and started praying." And she said, "The more I prayed, the more he screamed and the more he yelled." And she said, "I reached up to get a hold of his hand and he slapped it away and said, 'Don't touch me, I'm burning up.' And said he sat up in his bed and he said, 'Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord.' And said he pointed at that fireplace and said, 'Here they come. They're going to drag me in that fire. Oh God.' And she said his mouth flew open and his eyes got big. And she said he fell back on the bed and breathed his last breath. That terrifies me even today, and that's been over 10 years ago. That terrifies me. It happened just like I'm telling you. There's my story for today. God bless you. Love one another. I'll talk to you later. Here's a true story. And I don't
I've heard stories from some hospice nurses who witnessed similar things. People screaming, saying they're burning, claiming they trying to put out flames on their legs. Others claiming they made a mistake. People fighting their deaths till the end. Those witnessing it mentioning them smelling of sulfur, and those who died in peace, a sweet aroma and a tangible peace. People reaching towards the heavens, getting a glimpse of family that had gone before them. I've read when Catherine, not really who too sure who that is. The whole hospital floor smell of roses. Heaven and hell exist. This world truly is at war. It's a war between good versus evil. I stood at family member's bedside, told him how much I loved him. He opened his eyes, looked at me and said, "My God, you're beautiful." But it was like he was looking through me as if he saw something else. I'll never forget that. He was at such peace. Choose God, talk with God every day because he loves you more than you know. Another comment reads, as a nurse, I've seen people who believe in Jesus and those who don't. The ones that don't, when they get closer to death, they don't want the lights off. They are scared. They have no peace to them. You can feel the heaviness off the room. I also watched my grandmother. She was the strongest Christian woman I ever known. She didn't in fear. Once she seen all of us, she went to sleep peacefully. We stayed with her, singing, talking to her, but when she was at peace, I kid you not, she waited for the rest of us to leave for the night to shut her body down so we didn't have to see that. It was 10 minutes after we left for the evening. We have been there since 7 a.m. It was now 6 p.m. We all know that when we left, it would be the last time too. The presence of God was with us in her room the whole time. It was always a beautiful thing. I have no doubt that she was able to see us even when her body was asleep. You could just feel her there. To this day, I still tear up, not because I'm sad, but because of the presence of God we all felt with her. She's not only one that I have seen pass peaceful who believes. In fact, I can say I've seen any believer pass scared yet. I say to you, if you hear because you're questioning Jesus, just let it go and give him a try. What do you have to lose? Just say, Lord, I'm here. I don't know if you are, but will you reveal yourself to me? You just tell that I can move mountains with the faith the size of a mustard seed. Lord, my faith is small, a mustard seed, right? But I believe you will reveal yourself to me, and I want to know the truth of who Jesus truly is. That's it. God waiting at your door, and all you have to do is open the door to allow him in. Don't need to clean up the house. He doesn't care because you are the prize. Together you will clean your home. Alright guys, last one. My daddy was a big time alcoholic. When he stopped drinking or tried stopping, he saw dead people coming out the walls in their apartment. But we all was praying for him. He was on the phone with me screaming so hard. I still remember that scream. It was at least 15 years ago, but all of a sudden a neighbor walked in and helped him not to jump. The door was locked. We don't know how she got in, but she said that a little voice in her head told her to go in the house and don't ring the doorbell. She said when she saw my dad and he saw her, they knew Jesus was with them. And in that room, my daddy has been sober 15 years now. After that event, he went to rehab to the 100th time or so, but this one helped him, and he even stopped smoking.
We have proof that the Red Sea crossing happened. Like proof, not just artifacts on the bottom. We had those. We had chariot wheels on the bottom of the Red Sea. We had all these cool little artifacts. But the coolest thing that I saw is the shoreline. If you've ever watched the Ten Commandments movie, they had that big pillar of fire that came down. That's mentioned in the Bible. This pillar of fire, I just pictured these flames coming down. But when you go to that shoreline where it's documented to happen, the entire shoreline is melted sand. And it takes about 3,000 degrees or more to melt that sand. And it's evenly melted. You can almost see like footprints. There's stones infused in this melted sand. This is amazing. You don't hear about it. If it was a proof of evolution, it would be in every single textbook. But it's a proof that there was an exodus, like we're having today. You're talking about the exodus, people leaving the cities. It's happening again. We're all being called out of Egypt. This Bible that we read is so true. We're being called out of Egypt again and again. You know, come out of Babylon, you know, come out of her by people. Babylon and Egypt, those two kingdoms were side by side. We have proof that the Red Sea crossing happened. Like proof, not just artifacts.
Also, love to steal electricity with these new electronic meters. They fired all the meter readers. So what they're basically doing is using 5G to steal money. And the day your meter is read, you have to write down the numbers that are on it. You have to put it on your phone, put a note, take a picture, right? The day the meter's read, supposedly again on your bill, same thing. Take a picture, write it down, and you'll find I caught them stealing about $330 in 2 months. You have to pay attention to what you're doing in this world. These people who are poisoning us with the food, these people that are stealing, every which way they got their hand in their pocket. The insurance companies, the politicians, the GOV, everybody's taking your money. You know what? You gotta fight back, bro. If you don't, it's your own fault. And you ain't gonna live past 55 years old. You're gonna be on the street, bro. There's a lot of 55-year-old people that can't retire like they used to. 60-year-old, you're not even gonna make it. Plus, the poisoned food, you're gonna wind up. Fight back, bro. Fight back.
That is interesting. You really got to be on it these days.
If you own one of these and have it outside your door on your home, you might think twice about leaving it there. And why do I say that? Because Amazon Ring just partnered with this company right here called Flock Security. And if you don't have any clue as to who Flock Security is, well, they are a police surveillance company. Well, to put it to you this way, anything that has video surveillance around your home, including your doorbell cam and your indoor cameras and your outdoor cameras, will all be connected to a major, large law enforcement network. So technically, that is no longer home security. That is now surveillance. Just keep it in mind if you do have a Ring doorbell security system. The Flock Security Partnership goes live beginning in November. And that's not the only partner Ring is going to be bringing on. Come December, they'll be partnering with Axion, a company that makes police body cameras. This might also include facial recognition on your devices. Add that all up and put it all together, you get this. Ring wants you to share your camera footage with police again. So keep this in the back of your mind. This is not some conspiracy theory that is being floated all around social media. This has been widely reported, but also keep this in the back of your mind. This is for entertainment purposes only. Entertainment purposes only until it is officially said and done. So I guess my question to you is, are you comfortable if this does come to fruition, where there'll be facial recognition and there will be the ability to read license plates and so on and so forth, and also the ability for law enforcement to use your cameras 24 hours a day to look at whatever they want to look at. That includes your guests, your family, your pets, anything that is moving around or going in and out of your home.
I feel like, wasn't that on Dark Knight with the Joker at the end? Batman couldn't find Joker, so he ended up being able to see everything. And then what was his name? Morgan Freeman was like, look, this is the last time I'm gonna do this, so we're not doing this no more. So that's what it's thinking. It's giving me Dark Knight vibes.
When these big corporations start stealing from working class people, people have to fight back. And we're seeing right now in the insurance HOAs that are huge, ran by attorneys, just stealing from common people. So you may think that this is stealing, but in fact, it's really not. What you're doing with this is locking your door at night. Don't want to talk about working out the bill. It's $1,000 last month. You have to fight back. And this is how you fight back. If you don't fight back, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Also, everybody knows these new electronic meters. This is how the GOV hacks into your router, knows where you're searching, where you're going, what you're doing. This is how the bad guys with these electronic meters hack into all your smart devices in your house, your TV, your dishwasher, your washer, dryer, everything. right through your meter.
I wonder how effective it would be if you use copper instead of the aluminum foil.
You need to blur out your house on Google Maps right now because you're basically giving criminals free access to your house. All they got to do is drop your address into Google Maps, zoom in, and boom, they can see every window, every gate, every way in. Here's how to blur it out. Search your address, click your home's image under the search bar. Once it's in full screen, hit the 3 red dots and click the link. Report a problem, center the house in the red box, select my home, and hit submit. Google will blur it out permanently like your house never existed. Send this to every person you love so they can do it too.
Yo, we're in a Toyota 2025, and we noticed that on the screen, you can't use navigation unless you pay a subscription fee for it, right? Which is insane. Like, you can't just hook your phone up and use navigation on your phone. That's free. So we looked at the subscription fees, and it's $15 a month. It's also $15 a month to stream music to the actual screen in your car. Okay, together it's $25 a month. Then I also saw somebody on a forum say it's $8 a month to be able to see your oil level and your tire pressure. The car's like 40 grand. Oh yeah, remote start. You have to literally pay a subscription fee to get remote start. The vehicle is capable of all these things. What the fuck reality?
So I have a Toyota product. I needed to go to the dealership. They gave me a loaner. With the loaner, she's giving me instructions on how to start the car and all that. Honestly, it just was overwhelming and overstimulating. It wasn't just a regular norm for this 2025 situation. And it had cameras in it. And I don't mean just in it like for your safety. It had cameras to where it's watching you drive to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. So if you touch your phone, the car's going to decelerate, do all this different stuff. And also, if it's tracking other cars, everything around you, so the car automatically decelerates, does this, does that. And that seemed interesting enough. But when I connected a device for the Bluetooth, it kept disconnecting every time I got in the car, and she was stating, oh, that's because it's based on subscription. And when she told me all the things that were a part of said subscription, mind you, the Toyota product that I'm talking about, they're about over $70K for the vehicle I was in, brand new, for what I'm looking at. So you're telling me what I paid for my car, right? My vehicle.
I drive a pickup truck I got for $4,000,
and it's on the same with that, and you think I'm going to trade my car in, which still has buttons that I can press for my sensory self and feel and do all the things I need to do, and you think I'm going to trade it in for a car that's literally watching me when we're already in that kind of state of where you're being supervised or being watched all the time, and you think I want that, when I know for a fact a lot of these cars are autonomous and they're saying they're not, and they are. So in the event you don't want to drive your car somewhere and they're telling you to turn it in, that car will be able to literally turn itself in. It was about over a decade ago, I was in a Ford renting it, and the car, if I went over the speed limit, the car literally decelerated on its own. So I know for a fact these cars can drive themselves if they don't want you to go somewhere you won't. So you better be careful. If I were you, I would invest in these vintage cars from the 1950s.
Yo, we're in a Toyota.
I see it all the time. These newer cars, you get them and then they depreciate so much over time. But if you get an old school, you might make a little bit if you sell it. That's why I got a truck for actually $3,800. You know, he talked me into an extra $200. He's like, you might as well make it $4,000. And I was like, why not? I was so happy to get the truck. You thought you weren't going to get another excellent specimen of the day? Think again. All right, we have a unique one today. Malachite and azurite coexisting. What would be the name you would give this one? Almost looks like Bulbasaur. If I had to name this specimen, I would call it Bulbasaur. What would you call it?
Oh man, look what they doing to us, man.
Spicy going in and spicy coming back out. Who wants some Takis? You love these, right? You don't care what's in them, right? You better keep scrolling then. Want some high blood pressure? Eat these on the reg, and yours will be so high your heart may explode.
On the reg? I can't stand this.
You know what makes me so bright and tasty? Artificial colors and flavors, baby. Red 40, yellow 5, blue 1, all mixed up just for you. My favorite ingredients. TBHQ and seed oils. Keeps me fresh and crispy forever. Ha ha! You humans love that stuff, don't ya? You know what really makes the flavor pop? MSG, baby! Once you crunch, there's no coming back. Ha ha ha! Spicy forever!
Not a big conspiracy guy, but I'll say it. And I hate to be this guy.
I don't think I've ever tried a Taki, to be honest.
Over 1,500 people called 911 a few days ago in Nevada, a little outside of Las Vegas, after hearing the most shocking sound, and there still to this day is no official explanation onto what the Sam damn these people were hearing. It sounds otherworldly. Listen to this video and we're going to talk about it.
So we all just got woken up to some disturbing sound all through the whole area. They just called 911 and they said they've gotten like over 50 calls about it.
Redstone. These are some old Aztec sandstones, located 1 hour outside of Las Vegas. What are the ancestors saying?
Now, I don't know about ancestors. To me, this sounds like something going on underground because they couldn't even pinpoint the sound. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. There's no...
Were they burrowing underground, making new railways with some type of machine? That's what I was thinking.
Not like a big factory that was off-gassing or expelling some type of waste, whatever. This is like, they don't know what this sound was. Now, I have to think of tunnels. I have to think of deep underground military bases. We already know in Nevada there's a ton of deep underground, or at least massive deep underground military bases. Remember that lady came out, Catherine Austin Fitts, said they spent trillions of dollars on underground cities? So who knows if there's a vent somewhere. And by the way, the technology is so advanced today that you could be sitting somewhere like this, looking off into the distance at a mountaintop, and you wouldn't know there's actually an entrance there, but it is cloaked with holographic technology. And before you say that's kind of wild, let me just say this. There are many movies that show a hologram that covers a entryway into a cavern. And it looks like rock, but you can walk through it, or fly through it, or drive through it. This is in many different sci-fi movies, which we know they hide the truth in plain sight. So who knows if this was a tunnel cave system? Reptilians? I mean, let's talk about it. Let me know your thoughts below and follow for more.
I would watch for Baron, because here's the thing. There's also another book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote this book too in the late 1800s, depicting this character.
They picked those same names.
Yes.
Baron Trump.
Baron Trump. That is a book. Yes. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote both these books. Right?
In the 1800s.
Yes. I believe it was like 1893, 1896, something like that.
Then there has to be time travelers.
Well, here's the thing. In the book, Baron Trump is a time traveler. No bullshit. All this is in the book, you guys. And guess what? So he time travels, right? He has a mentor named Don. This is in the book. So here's the theory that Trump actually has some type of time travel technology only because Donald Trump's uncle, John G. Trump, worked for the FBI. Now, Nikola Tesla died. They sent him in because he's a scientist, he's a physicist, engineer, smart guy. So they're like, hey, go in to Nikola Tesla's, room and decipher all his works and whatnot. Because, Nikola Tesla discovered free energy and a multitude of things, right? So Donald Trump's uncle goes in there and says, we didn't find anything. Bunch of BS. You don't think that Nikola Tesla, who had discovered free energy and manipulated electromagnetism, which had that you can, in theory, bend time, light, and space, this man's works was confiscated by him and he didn't find anything? I would watch for Baron, because
This strange clip shows a man and a woman sleeping on their couch in the front room. All seems normal until this happens. Take a look. As they are sleeping, we suddenly see the woman's legs start to be pulled up close to her head. She wakes up in a panic, which also wakes up the man, who is confused with what's going on. She later went on to say that they had been experiencing paranormal activity in their home since going to a Halloween party in an abandoned prison. She believes something evil followed them back. So, do you think this is evidence of something paranormal? Could the woman simply have had a severe case of cramp, or could it be just a hoax? What do you think?
I think her leg is in an awkward position, only if somebody could, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But from here, it looks like her leg is in a tough position for one to put it in, if you ask me. What do I think happened there? I don't know. Some type of ghost trying to stretch her out? You tell me.
Brinacle, also known as the finger of death. These underwater icicles form when supercooled brine sinks and freezes everything it touches. They grow slowly downward until they trap and kill sea life on the ocean floor. Brinicles are among the strangest and deadliest ice formations in the ocean. Brinacle, also known as the finger of death.
It basically just freezes everything it touches? How extraordinary. I can see the finger.
Project Fishbowl. Scientists are trying to crack the firmament. They want to see what lies beyond the Earth. They launched
Altitude.
No lead. Isn't lag. Now. AB, can I save it? Maybe not in a 2 bag. Well, we saved it. Oh.
Still Viper 10,000. Viper knock it off, Viper 1 knock it off. Viper 2 knock it off.
Woo! Alright, max 6.9 G's there. That's a good one. Left hand turn.
This has to be some type of training exercise, as you could see the plane in the back starting to trail. I think it was right about here that you could start to see the plane pop up. There it is. How exciting is that?
high into the upper sky, watching the atmosphere light up and ripple. The sky becomes a testing ground. Auroras painting the limits of reality. Or maybe this project was actually used to study EMPs and space radiation. Project Fishbowl.
That is hilarious. They have scientists up there with the John Henry hammer. What an interesting theory.
So you guys wind up on the coast of a completely unknown landmass with zero sunlight and a predatory primal breed of humans.
Brother, it was something out of a horror movie, okay? Arrived with 5 crewmates and God rest their souls, man, we left with 2.
As soon as we touched the surface, we're looking around just thinking, man, what the hell is this place, right? It's colder in Alaska, zero sunlight, which at first we didn't think was strange. We just figured it was nighttime, you know? And before any of us can even utter a word, right? This is where, I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. We hear George just say, everybody listen and listen carefully. There are people in the water behind us. Turn your flashlights off. Do not make eye contact with them. They're not like us. Do you understand me? Right? He goes, we're going to head for the forest up ahead. We need to move now. Stay behind me. And we just take off like we're running a relay. right? I mean, we don't know if we're being chased. As we're going, we hear these growls so loud it's vibrating through your chest, right? I kid you not, off to the far right side of our path, there are 4 or 5 of these black wolves, at least 6 or 7 feet tall, okay? I'm just screaming to the crew, go, go, go. I pull a flashbang off my backpack, slip the pin out with my teeth and just send it like a Hail Mary, right? And we just keep gunning straight into the depths of this forest. I'm hearing it in the trees beside me. There's creatures soaring through the sky like it's fucking Game of Thrones, right? We finally get to a neutral ground, right? We catch our breath. And first thing I say to George is, look, what do you know about this place? What happens if we make eye contact with those people? And how did you know not to? Right? I mean, we all worked under NASA at the time, but he was the only one who was ex-CIA, you know? He goes, look, I'm not 100% certain where we are, but so far everything's matching up pretty perfectly. I go, matching up to what? Right? And he goes, when I worked at the agency, there was research about a place they referred to as Region 8, okay? The more I looked into it, the crazier it got. There were all these undocumented derivative human species, land masses, one of which, called Panthea, or the Dark Continent, outside the parameters of sunlight, rocky terrain, and inhabited by natives which have certain biological adaptations that had them flagged by us as the single most dangerous species on the planet. And I'm going, what kind of adaptations, right? He goes, they have what we understood as biokinesis.
So you guys wind up on the coast of a completely unknown landmass.
Sounds like they were in those spots Admiral Byrd was trying to tell them about, beyond the ice wall. The Dark Continent. What they call it? District 8? Little do they know we stay on Dark Waters 9.
Alright, go ahead, wagon. Throw it in. Watch this, man. Pure warfare. Look at these things fight for this. Look at, he's got it. Look at it. Life is good. If you fall in here, you are dead, man.
Woo! How was that for a fest, huh?
And that one guy had it.
No, he did. That was sick, right?
Alright, go ahead, wagon. Throw it in. Watch this, man.
Why train them for anything that splashes there? You know, that's not good. Uh-oh, it looks like we're about to be living in the Jetsons soon.
This is the Pivotal Helix all-electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It is a Part 103 ultralight aircraft, single seat for recreational use that you can order today at pivotal.aero. To fly the aircraft, it's very simple with a single joystick. You simply push up to climb, hold down to descend, and a hover you can twist to accelerate and decelerate forward and rolling turns left and right, as well as a trigger for transitioning hover to cruise and buttons for auto landing. Now on the touchscreen display here, you have all of your navigation data, airspeed, altitude, heading, wind direction and speed, battery life, motor temperature, ground speed, and pitch angle of the aircraft. Inside the headrest, the brains of the aircraft, a fully triply redundant flight control computer system. Further back, we have triply redundant pedostatic and GPS. Now here we have a fixed wing, fixed pitch prop aircraft, all carbon fiber props, brushless motors, lithium ion batteries inside the wing. And over here on this side, you have servos to control the elevator or the elevons, which are a combination of elevators and ailerons to help tilt the aircraft as well as stabilize it in cruise. The entire body of the aircraft is carbon fiber and is a tilt aircraft architecture, so it pitches up into a hover and then tilts into cruise much like an airplane. The body of the aircraft does float and is helped with the ballast floats in the front of the wings. The Helix also is equipped with a ballistic parachute that can be deployed at an altitude of 200 feet or higher in the unlikely case of an emergency. For more information, go to pivotal.aero. We'd love to chat about getting you in the cockpit to experience it for yourself.
Interesting. Imagine taking one of these boys in the Grand Canyon restricted section.
This flower is a crocus, and those tiny red threads are saffron. Each one is hand-picked with tweezers, 3 per flower. It takes over 100,000 blooms to make just 1 kilo of saffron. And that kilo of saffron can cost up to 10,000 euros, making this the most precious spice.
Did my man just climb inside this tree? This tree is completely hollowed out. Look, you can see the bats though. Oh yeah, that's Bat City. That's at least 20 bats living inside that giant hollowed out tree. But the question remains, who hollowed this giant tree out? Who's living inside there? This massive tree. Costa Rica National Park.
This video is going viral right now because Busta Rhymes came out to tell the audience this. Listen to this. Do you remember when Cat Williams said they make you wear a dress, and if you don't wear the dress, you don't get the roles you're looking for? Big Mama's House with Eddie Murphy. Of course, it's comedy, ha ha ha. Some say it's a humiliation ritual. You have the one with Robin Williams, Mrs. Doubtfire. We have the movie White Chicks. There are more movies than you may remember that have this type of situation going on. Chris Rock wore the dress. So now I can't really get that out of my head when I see a famous person wearing the dress, a famous man wearing the dress. I go, damn, he took them up on their offer. And then we have the notion of one-hit wonders. Some people think that one-hit wonders are people who refused to join the cult or sign on the dotted line or sell their soul. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more.
Dang, that's why they're one-hit wonders. I never thought about that.
Yo, I told you they creating NPCs. It states the parasite controlling minds. Half the world is infected with the parasite that alters the brain and drives impulsive, risky behaviors. This is the reason for things like mass as well as other insane, heinous acts. The name of this parasite is referred to as Toxoplasma gondii. Their objective is to completely hijack and override your neurophysiology. More than half the Earth's population is believed to be affected with this parasitic organism. This is why the world is filled with so many NPCs or non-playable characters. None of these bizarre events that are taking place all around the world are coincidental, okay? Most of these individuals that are non-playable characters are maliciously created and turned into non-playable characters, and it's primarily facilitated through the food. What if I told you that parasite eggs are maliciously manufactured and placed in the processed food purposely, okay? And when you consume this processed food, the larva begins to grow in your colon. And once the larva grows, it then sends neurological signals, making you crave more of this food that you shouldn't be consuming in the first place. It's very important that we refrain from processed foods. Most of the processed foods are bioengineered, genetically modified organisms that are engineered and designed to override your genetic sequence. When doing a parasite cleanse, it's also imperative that you remove all toxic metals. Parasites are very intelligent and they tend to hide behind the toxic metals, okay? Like lead, cadmium, mercury, and aluminum, which are emitted from the chemtrails as well as placed in our drinking water through the irrigation systems. Most people are filled with parasites and don't even know it, all right? Parasites actually have the ability of traveling from your colon to your heart to your brain, and they can hijack your neural synapses and actually make you think of crazy things that you would never do, okay? Parasites are pretty much closely related to archons or demons. This is also why they made us aware that pretty soon we will start seeing demon face syndrome. This is a result of parasites, actually, that are attached to the R complex portion of the brain, which is located near the brainstem and basal ganglia, that actually have the ability of reflecting outwardly through your appearances, okay? These parasites literally have the ability of fully hijacking the host.
For entertainment purposes only, make sure you do your own research on everything. Don't believe everything you hear or see on this video. It is just theories.
NPCs all over the world have now started to glitch, which has really made people wonder that these are not just human beings, because not only did they catch this lady on camera doing this, but it all started with a man who ended up, and his first reaction was as you guys can see, it got so bad to the point that they had to end up pulling him out. But then again, you guys let me know what you think. And
my initial thoughts is that he is definitely on something, but as for her, this is disturbing. Nah, that is insane. Something is not right here.
What if you could print a steak in minutes that looks, feels, and tastes just like the real thing? This 3D printer churns out up to 10 kilograms of vegan steak per hour. Using plant-based proteins, fatty acids, and natural colorants, its precision nozzles extrude layer by layer, mimicking real muscle fibers and texture. You can even customize the fat ratio, firmness, and nutritional profile to your liking. What if you could print a...
That is crazy. A 3D printed steak? A vegan steak. If you thought you weren't going to have another excellent specimen today, think again. All right. What do we have here? Not really sure what this color is. Like a bluish purple, but what would be the name? Not lavender, like a dark grape. Yeah, like a Arctic grape. If I had to name it a color, I'm getting like a Arctic grape brains. If I had to name this specimen, the Arctic grape brain. What would you guys call it? Drop it in the comments below. And that's all we got for today. Hope you guys are having a happy Thanksgiving, which is today's code word.
I thought this was fake, but they actually did it. They might have found the most famous ancient artifact in all of history. For the longest time, historians dismissed it as a myth, a made-up story glamorizing one of humanity's greatest moments. And now, CIA documents from 1988 reveal the Ark of the Covenant is real, and they know exactly where it is. Known as Project Sunstreak, where they sent over 30 agents on very special missions to find the Ark without telling them what they were looking for or even where they were going. Just that they were looking for something very important in order to make the operation as unbiased as possible. The three major goals for this project were establish whether a threat exists, if so, what are its dimensions, and can it be exploited. One particular agent on this mission, number 32, described finding almost exactly what they were looking for. He reported seeing a container with another container inside of it, made of wood, gold, and silver, and was shaped like a coffin, decorated with seraphim on top, which are these things. This already very accurately describes the Ark of the Covenant, without even knowing it's what he was looking for, but it doesn't end there. He goes on to confirm that he found this container hidden underground in the Middle East as he heard people speaking in Arabic around him. According to him, the container's purpose is to bring people together, holding information and historical knowledge far beyond anything we know, and that it's protected by powerful entities in this underground Middle Eastern chamber, also seeing domed roofs on the surrounding buildings. Keep that part in mind. The agent explained that this box can only be opened by those authorized to do so, and that it won't be opened until the time is right. Anyone who opens it before then will be destroyed by an unknown power. All in his official CIA report. Everything he described are known characteristics of the Lost Ark, without even knowing what he was looking at. And the reason he didn't know where he was or what he was trying to find was because this was a remote viewing mission the CIA had sent him on. In case you didn't know, the CIA was kinda obsessed with remote viewing in the 70s and 80s, part of their larger Project Stargate program. Put simply, remote viewing is the ability to project your consciousness to other parts of the world, or even outside of our world and at any point in time, to see exactly what would be there if if you were to go in person, also known as astral projection. Kinda like when you die in a video game and you're waiting to respawn, you can fly around and see everything as that invisible camera that no one else can see. Now I know when most people hear this, they immediately call it nonsense voodoo psychic magic that has no merit in reality. But it kinda works. The CIA and similar agencies have successfully used it on numerous occasions with incredible results. Like Patricia Mona, who successfully found 30 missing people for the RCMP in Canada through her remote viewing sessions. Joe McGonigal, a decorated intelligence officer, described seeing the construction of a giant Soviet submarine through his sessions. An idea that was mocked and literally laughed at the time until they actually found it, and it matched exactly how Joe described it. Other remote viewers drew accurate sketches of secret Soviet bases, which later turned out to be real, or found the exact locations of hostages during major events like the Red Brigade and the Israeli hostage crisis, which were then rescued. Angela Ford was tasked with finding a fugitive on the run through remote viewing and found the name of the exact city he was hiding in Wyoming. He was there and they caught him. Former President Jimmy Carter himself admits they got the exact coordinates of a crashed plane in Africa from a remote viewer, and lo and behold, it was there. Not to mention the CIA invested hundreds of millions of dollars into Project Stargate before they shut this program down in 1995. Sure, you can argue that even a broken clock is right twice a day, and if you remote view enough times, yes, eventually you'll get something right. But these were all incredibly detailed events, locations, and descriptions, and it would be a stretch to call them all just coincidences. It's not perfect, but it works a lot of the time. These training programs insisted that remote viewing is a skill that anyone can learn if you put in the effort. There are some people who are more naturally gifted than others, and these are who they select for their missions. The way the CIA typically conducted the remote viewing missions is by providing anonymous coordinates to their psychic agents and telling them to project themselves there to see what they find. And as we saw with remote viewer number 32 of Project Sunstreak, he potentially witnessed the most sought-after relic in all of history, the Ark of the Covenant. A biblical artifact whose existence is hotly debated, but we do kinda know exactly what it looks like. A giant chest adorned with gold and acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long by 1.5 cubits wide, that is said to hold the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, the 10 rules of living as written by God and given to Moses in the Bible, as well as Aaron's rod, Moses' brother and the first high priest, which is said to have its own source of divine power, and a golden pot of manna, the divine white flaky food given to the Israelites in the desert by God in order to keep them fed. The book of Exodus goes into crazy detail about
How do they know it's white flaky food? I didn't know that.
the exact specifications of the Ark, and we can pretty much construct a perfect replica based on all the written measurements and instructions given. The Bible even describes the exact sequence of events of where the Ark was moved throughout the generations. Over hundreds of years, the Ark was carried by the Israelites throughout the land as God directed them where to go. It eventually ended up at the Temple of King Solomon in Jerusalem, the last known location of the Ark before the temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 587 BC. But remember our remote viewer number 32, when describing the Ark, mentioned seeing buildings with domed roofs in his report? Well, the most famous dome in the Middle East and arguably the world is the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, an Islamic mosque built in the 7th century AD. What's interesting about the Dome of the Rock is that it was built on Temple Mount, one of the holiest sites in the world, and the same original location as King Solomon's temple before it was destroyed, the last known location of the Ark. That's because the Dome of the Rock was built on top of something called the foundation stone, a massive stone block of great significance, as it's believed this is where God's creation of earth started according to religious tradition, and is also the rock upon which the Ark was expected to be placed on in the OG Temple of King Solomon, as if it couldn't get any more obvious. Beneath this stone are several known tunnels and chambers called the Well of Souls, which people have visited and very clearly exist. But beneath that well is another hidden chamber that's sealed off and is where the Ark of the Covenant is rumored to be held. Access to the Dome of the Rock is very heavily restricted, and you also have to be Muslim to enter, as it is an Islamic mosque, sparking further rumors that they're intentionally hiding it there and not letting anyone claim it for religious dominance. But hey, I'm not touching that one. We're not starting a holy war over here. But it is very interesting to see this remote viewer describe what appears to be the Ark of the Covenant sitting in a dark cave in the Middle East surrounded by domed buildings, without even knowing what it was he was looking for. So either call it a coincidence, or they know exactly where the Ark is, and who knows what sort of powers it holds.
I was thinking it could be at the Vatican. I believe you have to be wearing some type of breastplate to even carry it as well.
Of a Victorian traveling dentist's set, circa 1845. This is a really interesting time in dental artistry when it was sort of become.
When they say Victorian, I think Tartarian. That's just the first thing that comes to mind, but you do gotta admit, look how hard they went. Is that pearl handles? Ivory, what's going on here?
Of more formal profession, and this is clearly just the finest of such a set. Really beautiful mother of pearl inlay, sterling silver. My favorite part is it opens up here. That comes off and you get more tools there, and then
look at the velvet rose pattern at the top. Man, that's all we got for today's video. If you made it this far, be sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching on the TV, like 70% of my viewers are, go ahead and start clicking on that Roku remote, that Vizio remote. Find the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and go ahead and slap that for your boy. Also find the bell icon so you don't miss a video. It notifies you as soon as I come out with one. The code word for today's video is Eclipse. Go ahead and drop Eclipse in the comments below. When you do that, that lets me know you're a real one. You made it all the way through the video and you really rock with your boy. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I try to look through the comments and find those with the code words and heart them to show you that, you know, I care. And I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. This was disturbing and mysterious footage that had me shocked and changed my reality. I'm Jet Ski Chuck. Till next time.